we are back for episode 29. It's Jonathon Howe and Travis Cunningham on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And this one, I think we had to work for. We like to start the show with, whatever number podcast we're on. We got to talk about a driver that uses that number. 29 was a bit of a struggle. All right. I went through the entire point standings at Merrittville across its 5 classes. There wasn't an actual 29, but I'm going to shout out Dave Cornish in the 291. And when we get to episode 291, he'll get a second shout out.
That is cheating.
It works, 29. So that's my pick. You got a 29, Travis?
Yeah, the one I thought of was Tyler Ward in the crate sprints. And for older ones, Liam Martin's crate sprint when he owned it himself before he went to Nitro 54 in the 360s was 29. And Brad Sheehan in the Hoosier stocks, Thunder stocks, whatever you want to call him, started as 29. And his go-kart was 29. But now he's number 2.
Yeah.
But he was 29.
Good picks. We got through it. I'm shocked like 19-year-old kid or like a 22-year-old kid hasn't come up and picked like a 29 after Kevin Harvick. That's at the track now. Something like that. But pretty weak lineup.
I didn't like Harvick as 29.
I know. I almost forget that he was 29.
I was a Dale boy.
Yeah.
The 29 car broke my heart.
I almost think of him more as the 4 car now than anything.
Oh, for sure. Harvick, yeah. Guaranteed he's the 4 car.
Yeah. It's weird. Imagine if NASCAR drivers had to pick like their number that they went into the Hall of Fame, just like how like in the Baseball Hall of Fame you can't go in with multiple teams. You get only like one team on your logo on your hat or whatever. That'd be easy for some guys. Like obviously when Jimmy Johnson goes into the Hall of Fame, 48 obviously. Jeff Gordon obviously 24. Dale Earnhardt obviously the 3 car, even though he did win a championship in the 2 car.
And not even 50% of his NASCAR starts are in the 3. Most people don't know that. There's 15, 2, 96, 77. Yep. There's tons. But yeah, the 3 is what he's known for. But over 50% of his starts wasn't 3. So
it's the power of marketing, right? And he figured out marketing when he went to Childress and started driving a 3 car. All right, let's get into the World Finals, in particular the Super Dirt Car Series, because the Canadians representing down in Charlotte. This was awesome. 3 Super Dirt Car Series features, all won by Canadians, 2 by Matt Williamson and Matthew Desjardins in there as well with the Friday feature win. And you watched most of the action. I watched Saturday night with you. So what do you think of the Canadian sweep down there in Charlotte?
Well, Thursday night was just, Matt got the lead, and I forget where he started that night, but got the lead quick. You could tell he was going to be one of the faster cars. And he pulled away. I think he won by 4 seconds-ish. And I don't even remember who finished second. He spanked him that night.
Rudolph. It was Rudolph.
Yeah, that's right. I called it on the show last week.
He won by 4.6 seconds.
Yeah, so I knew that part was right. And I remember last week now saying on the show that him and Rudolph, the 2 Niagara boys, going at it. And Rudy finished second. So, that was first night. And then
and Matt Shepard brought it home third, which was before. Yeah, well, we said, Matt Shepard didn't need much to win the championship, and yes, he is the Super Dirt Car Series champion this year. But Thursday night was pretty much the only night I think he wanted to remember from the World Finals, because it got rougher from out there for the champ.
Yeah, I think he cracked 2 motors the next 2 nights, so that got expensive quick, and heck, that's pretty much all of his point money. See you later right there. I'm sure he's got good sponsors too to help him out, but it's not ideal. And then, Matt even said, Williamson in Victory Lane that night just said how about, like, he was happy about the win, but he's bummed and just can't wait to get going for next year to try to catch up with Shepard.
Well, it was funny. So moving on to like the Friday night, Matt started 30th and ended up 12th, which was, a ton of gain over 30 laps, but, 18 positions in 30 laps. But it was Matthew Desjardins, a different Canadian, kind of stealing the show. He wins it over Tim Fuller by a half second. So that one was a little bit closer. But Desjardins started on pole and finished it there in the 37M.
Yeah, this one was a heck of a race. The modifieds were the best racing at Charlotte, if you ask me. that night, like Desjardins was on the front row, and then he led for a while, running the top, and then Shepard finally tracked him down, rolling the middle and stuff, and Shepard got by him. And then so Shepard led for a while, and Desjardins was able to hold on for second. And then yeah, Matt Shepard, that was one of his first broken engines. He broke an engine and gave the lead back to Desjardins. And then Tim Fuller, who I think had to make a run through the field, definitely went through quite a bit, ended up second, and he just couldn't quite get Desjardins. And Desjardins no joke. Like, he was sportsman supercar champion, like Cody was this year. And I think he won at the Moody Mile at Syracuse. If not, he was quick time for sure and finished second. I know he was up there the 1 year, guaranteed, in a really nice purple car, because I remember it. That's how I remember it, because the cars were so nice. But anyway, he held on for car owner Paul Saint Sauveur, and that just goes to show you about equipment. Like, Saint Sauveur, God love him, he followed the whole tour this year, but he had a hard time making shows in his car. He puts Desjardins in his backup car, and he puts her on the front stretch. So awesome run to see it. And like, the coolest part was, like, Thursday night they sang, all Matt's Quebec fans sang in French for Matt, and then the next night Desjardins wins, and all the English speaking fans run down and sing O Canada in English to salute him. It was pretty. That was the coolest part of the weekend.
Yeah, that was wicked, eh? It was so cool to just see, Canadians go down there and kick butt and represent. And then the night we watched together, Matt Williamson gets it done in I don't want to say dramatic fashion, but that was definitely I think the closest of the three races. Um, and really, you didn't know who was going to win it. Like, Madden only ended up leading 3 laps of 40, but started eighth and moved his way up through the field slowly but surely. Caught a couple timely cautions. Max McLaughlin said as much in his podium speech, but Matt Williamson gets it done, going from eighth to first, and I'm going to say that was his most impressive win,
Of the weekend, yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah, his fiance Natalie drew for him, and that's twice now I've seen her draw the worst number in the bucket for him. And he was able to. That sucks for her. Oh man, that's the worst feeling in the world when that happens. I definitely felt bad for her watching it, but didn't matter because Matt made up for it. Nah, that's why he didn't lead a lot of laps. He had to make a lot of moves through a lot of good guys, and him and Max did make a little contact, but then I think a yellow came out and it got reverted anyway. Like, the contact didn't happen. Matt had to get him again, got him clean, and yeah, that was it. 2 out of 3 on a roll. Matt, when Matt gets hot, he's
Very,
hot.
I know, very impressive. What do we added up? It was almost like $50,000 in a
That
week
was
or so
about
for
8
him.
days. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, pretty good stuff from Matt Williamson. So we've hit the weekend. We are approaching the Merrittville Speedway Banquet on Saturday, our championship night, and obviously we know who won the points battles and stuff. But there are some awards, and I know some of the award winners. So I figure we'll have a bit of a guessing game. Travis, you can make the picks, or you can maybe take a guess at who is going to
Yeah, 'cause I
win
literally have
some of
no
these
idea.
awards,
Swear on my life, I have no idea. So,
and I will not confirm anything for you. I just want to hear who you pick and see where you're at. So, um, first off, car owner of the year. Is there one that jumps out to you at Merrittville?
oh, even Randy Slack or Andrew Sittler, because they're both co-champions.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, when I think of a good car owner, it's somebody who's bringing a lot of people and a lot of cars to the track. So anybody I think that was
Mm,
running like a multi-car operation and had a competitive multi-car operation, I think that was good. And like there was we asked about Twisted Metal Racing, right? When we had Tyler LaFontaine on, all those drivers own their individual cars. They just have banded together to kind of form like an alliance, right? So they don't
yeah,
really count in terms of having one or a group of car owners that own all those vehicles. It's them coming together. So I don't really think of them. We I
that made
like
me think of
the
Josh Slider. Ha, he could
yes.
win it.
That's definitely a good name for it. I think the Carlton gang. I think of
Mm,
the
those are two
Lampman
separates
gang.
though
Like,
too.
and
Lampman's are
I
definitely the
guess
same.
technically, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll
So
see
much
who
for
ends it
picking
up.
guessing
But
one. We just named half the pits.
I know, right? That's the hardest part about these rewards, right? Is you can just go through
Yeah.
it. So this is one that I wanted to. We've made a little bit of a change when we were in the discussion part. The award used to be the crew chief of the year, and Don and Lorraine, along with Doug Leonard, we've all kind of decided to go with crew of the year because I think the biggest thing that has happened since the pandemic is we've seen, you know, multiple people really pitching in and helping these race cars. It's not just, one guy holding up all the shots on most race cars. It's drivers and a whole crew of guys making things work. So, is there a race team? Is there a racer that you think of when you think of crew of the year?
Mm, yeah, I was trying to think while you're talking. And the whole pits is worthy of it, if you ask me. But two that stick out, it's got to be Lampman's again and TMR,
Hmm.
because they all
Yeah, TMR would be
run
a pretty
cars in the
fit.
same divisions, and sometimes it can get hectic with flats in those cars because of the fenders and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. One that I talked about, that brought up, and obviously I know who
Yeah, you
wins,
got to
but
stop
I'm not going
saying
to
stuff.
say who wins. I just wanted to, like,
Yeah.
fine. I won't say anything. I won't say anything. But how do you feel about that? Because you are somebody who is in the pits. You have a crew yourself. You have a crew chief. You deal with all that stuff. Do you think crew of the year is the right change over crew chief of the year, given the way guys are operating in the modern dirt world?
Yeah, like World of Outlaws different. All cars have a crew chief designated like that, and there is some crew chiefs designated around the pits. Like obviously Bob Slacks, Dalton Slacks crew chief, but and Teddy Kervin's Pete Bicknell's crew chief, and those are two that pop out at me right away. And there's other ones, and but not everybody. So yeah, crew of the year makes sense.
I think so, right? How about performer of the year?
Ooh, yeah. So like performer of the year and driver of the year. So like driver of the year is the tower. So I can't remember who won all the driver of the week awards. Is that how they do it still? Is he still doing driver of the week and all that
Uh,
stuff?
I don't remember.
Because at one
That one
point,
was
driver of
decided,
the
so I
year
didn't really have to.
was like who it was all the tower stuff. So that's why they
Yeah,
made performer of the year kind of, because one year they had to give someone else something, and then now it's kind of stuck.
I I think that's how we did this one because I remember when I was writing down the awards, there was no debate. They just told me who the driver of the year was, so I was like, okay. But performer of the
Yeah, it's just
year, think about that one
to
and,
me it's
and
LaFauci
who
and
comes to mind.
Williamson or Bigelow, one of those three.
Ooh, it's so hard. So I was writing my speech, kind of thinking about, like, the intro
Like
to
one of
this
those
whole
three
thing,
should split those
and
two awards. Yeah, and your speech, sorry. Yeah.
right. Oh, so I was just thinking about it. Like, there were so many dominant, like, the juxtaposition of having pretty much a driver in each class dominate each division, but then also have this incredible competition, because the competition level of each division at Merrittville this year was pretty impressive. Like, the, there were 5 to 10 drivers in every class that you could have said could win every single night at the racetrack, pretty
Yeah.
much, depending on the division.
And even like the classes where
So
like it was a little separated by the end, like the battles for second were there and all through.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly, right. So um, yeah, we'll see who takes home that performer of the year. One of my personal favorite awards, the best appearing. When you think of four cylinders, who would you pick for best appearing car?
Oh, you're really putting me. Oh man, on the spot.
I know.
I loved the M&M car that Rothwell's did. They ended up not running it much, but I love that 19 with the
Yeah,
M&Ms. I don't know if it's gonna win or not,
yeah,
but I love that.
that was
Yeah.
Hannah's car, I think, last year, and then Kyle was kind of using it as a third car, occasional car for when he wanted to come out. And he did get victory lane in that car as well this year. So, how about in the mod lights?
It's the Pure Mod Light, Jeffrey May.
Yeah, good pick. Um, he has one of the better looking cars. I also wanted to shout out Sean F. Toddy.
Mm.
I mean,
Cheeseburger's got a nice
he
deal
put a
going on.
new color scheme this year. Yeah, Cheeseburger put together a new scheme, and it was pretty sharp this year. We'll see if he takes home the award because I'm still waiting on confirmation on some awards. So I don't know necessarily who's going to win everything, but what about a Hoosier stock car?
Ooh. Oh, that's easy. Pell Ryan. Heck yeah.
Good pick. Good pick. Sportsman.
It gets so hard to picture them. It's got it like Cody was up there with that purple and gold.
Yeah, it's a good looking ride, eh?
It was a good looking ride. There's lots of good looking rides, but that one popped in my head first.
Mm-hmm. And how about modified?
I love Brad Rouse's orange kind of plain deal. That's
Yeah,
just me.
nice.
Yeah.
All right, good pick. Good pick. When you think about, you don't have to go through all of the divisions maybe on this one, but when you think of a driver most improved, who would you pick?
In every division?
You don't have to give me every division necessarily, but if there's one or two guys that you think of that might end up taking home that trophy, let
Fairway,
me know.
Sportsman, pretty most improved. Trevor Wright had a good year, I think top five. So Fairway though,
Mm-hmm.
2 wins. First in a decade we had him on the show, so Fairway improved pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Modified,
Definitely a good pick.
oof, hard to not give it to Dalton Slack, even though he didn't go the whole year on the most improved. Because yeah, lots of the modified guys been around a while. One year they gave Freddie the most improved after like 27 or plus years, and then like his response in the speech was like he didn't know what to say. He's like, oh, I guess after 27 years I finally got better in like that most Freddie way possible. It was everyone laughed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one. Nice. Yeah, so that's some of the awards they're going to get handed out. We'll hand out all the hardware Saturday night at the Merrittville Speedway Banquet. The Osh Weekend Banquet is Friday, or was
next
that last?
Friday.
No, that was this Friday. Next Friday.
Yeah, we can do that next week.
All right. Yeah, we can talk about some of those awards then. Um, all right. Well, I think it's time we
One thing
start
we
getting
actually wanted to
awards.
touch on was like the World of
Oh,
Outlaws because we touched on it last week because it was a close
oh
battle.
yes.
But then Brad Sweet made it look easy and clinched it over David Gravel. And Gravel was getting some heat, being like a lot of people give Gravel heat because he's a vlogger or whatever. And like during the Saturday, he went virtual boxing or something, and like people were giving him grief on that because Brad Sweet definitely wasn't going virtual boxing. He was at the track and getting ready to go. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
and yeah, Gravel made it look like yeah, knife to a gunfight for Gravel on that one. And then the late model race.
Brad Sweet.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So before we move on to the late models,
Yeah.
is Brad Sweet the outright number one World of Outlaws driver right now? Is he the
Yeah.
best sprint car driver pound for pound in the world right now?
I don't know if you can go that way now because there's like Brent Marks is up there, but he just had a really good year too. I think over the years, Brad Sweet, yeah, no doubt, 4 Outlaw championships in a row. He's got a Knoxville Nationals in there somewhere. He's got a Kings Royal in there, 175 grand 2 years ago. One of the years, not long ago at all. And yeah, I think he's won all the crown jewels, 4 Outlaws in a row championships. So yeah, I give it to Brad,
Sure.
the old
Um,
brother-in-law.
yeah. So the late model. Yeah.
Because
Now I wonder. Not. I wonder if Larson ran a full World of Outlaws season,
I would love to see it. Just the
could he
brother-in-laws
beat Sweet?
battling it out. Yeah, because people who don't know, Caitlin Larson's Brad's sweet sister. Most people know that in the dirt world, but there you go.
Yeah. Late models.
Mhm. This one, like Jonathon Davenport dominated Saturday. Best late model driver in the world. Won almost $2 million this year. Won the $1 million at Eldora in one shot. So there's almost 2 mil on the year for him, and he didn't even qualify the Wednesday. And this was working off like a Knoxville National Styles points deal. So he didn't even qualify Wednesday. He was buried in points. Had to go through the heat, and then move up through the field a little bit. Made it look like the easiest thing he's ever done, which he's done all year. And yeah, late models Davenport, shocker.
Yeah. But not the overall championship winner in that series.
He didn't run this year. He's not a points guy. A lot of late model guys aren't points guys. Like the thing about the late model points isn't you barely even talk about it because maybe 2 or 3 guys ran the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
cool that.
it's
Sorry.
funny that you mentioned that because it's a good transition to one other thing I wanted to ask you about was have you had a chance to catch Scott Bloomquist on the Dale Jr. download yet?
Heck yeah, I'm almost
That
done.
was
I'm
that was a fun
I'm
episode.
not quite done, but there's just so many good parts. The alien part, obviously, everyone knew that was coming because he's already given that speech on flow.
Yeah.
But he's definitely got me thinking on that. But even Dale Jr. is pretty sold on it. Like he was pretty sold on the alien, sold Dale Jr. too.
Well, I think Junior's
But
pretty sold on it because of that crash he had at Infineon when he was burning up in the race car, and then he said his dad's
right,
ghost came
right,
down
right.
and pulled him
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
the
he's got a
car.
lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and he's like talking
I
about
was
it,
thinking
having
about
his
that with
dad ride
Junior.
beside him.
Because like the way he was saying, like even like he has dreams like once every couple of years or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't really have that. I kind of feel like my dad's more around me all the time, so I don't really have the dreams. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Because I just think about him not. I'm sure he thinks about him nonstop too, but I don't know. I was like around my dad a lot more than Junior. Like he was pulled away, and
Yeah.
like he gives all that story. Like he's been not shy about all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the difference there.
Yeah, I would say so, right?
Because like I
He's got
don't
a
have
more,
dreams like that, but like I just always feel him around.
yeah, yeah, he's got like that complicated relationship of being sent off to military school. When dad's out racing, he's back at the GM dealership changing oil and all that stuff, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
teenager and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Bloomquist was I found like his innovation with the amount of stuff about um, things he came up with the car just fascinating, right? Even though I'm not really a late model fan necessarily, it's not the first thing I go to watch, but uh, just hear him talk about all that stuff was really cool.
Yeah. Like that's definitely was my favorite part. And like my actual favorite part is where he discussed how like when he started putting two shocks on the left rear and the reasoning behind it
Yeah,
is
that's
like to give the car right rear weight going into the corner to get it in, which is what everybody wants, and then
mhm.
the other shock takes over when the car is transferring and switches to left rear weight to drive it off. And like,
And that's where he was
yeah,
hiding it between like behind one, right? Rather than putting them in line, it was like he had to put one behind the other to hide it or
yeah.
something. Was that?
And
Yeah,
then you just block
exactly.
off your wheel wells and stuff. Like
Yeah,
the tech guys would have seen it, but it wasn't illegal. So
yeah, exactly. It's cool stuff.
yeah,
All right, it's time to get to some of our interviews here. We've got Allan Downey coming up on the show, and who else we got, Travis?
Randy Giroux.
Randy Giroux, who is also going to be in the BRP iRacing League this year. So it'll be fun to talk to him about that and what he's been up to
Oh, he's got
stateside.
so much more that yeah. Randy Drew's been kicking butt in life the last couple of years. So
Yeah,
pumped to talk to Allan Downey and old Randy Drew.
awesome. We'll get them coming up next on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Want to support the Southern Ontario Dirt Show and help us expand our coverage across the province and Western New York? Well, your ad could be playing right here. Got a brand or business that deserves more attention? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com to become a sponsor of the podcast. And now, let's get back to the show. All right, we're back on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. Jonathon Howe, Travis Cunningham, joined alongside Allan Downey, rocking his Habs stuff on a day when we're talking Leafs and Sabres. So
Yep.
I guess the Habs are not doing the worst to start the year, but that's all right. How's it going tonight, Allan?
Great, great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, so talk to us about the year 2022 for you. You brought it home ninth in points in the crate sprints for Oshweekend locally, but just talk to us about how 2022 went in your eyes.
Yeah, it was a trying year for sure. We had a lot of success last year. I finished second in the Action Sprinter points. Was really looking forward to having a great year, getting back to Oshweekend. And we had a tough couple races, like top tens, but I was really struggling to find a setup that worked well at Oshweekend, and I was having a hard time getting comfortable there for whatever reason. I was much more comfortable at other places, and I can go anywhere else and be comfortable in the car and comfortable with my setup, and but for whatever reason we couldn't figure it out there. And then we started getting a little bit of momentum, started winning some heat races, and then I had a bad wreck, which rode off my car, which put me into a new car, a new to me car, and we really struggled with it for a long time throughout the course of the year. But I had a lot of fun. overall, we did well. We finished top 10 in points at Oshweekend and top 7, I believe, in the Action Sprint Tour, and we didn't even go to all the races. So it wasn't anything to kind of be disappointed with, but we were hoping for better, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he's the crate version of me. Like was running good last year and the year before, real well, and then this year you were kind of struggled a little bit, like you said. Just talk about like how mentally that affects you a little bit different.
Oh, it's trying. It's definitely trying. You're motivated to go to the track every week, and you think you got something figured out, and you're like, oh, I got something new I can try. I'm relying on the right advice. I'm getting the best help I can. I'm doing my research. I'm doing my work in the shop, and to just kind of beat your head against the wall, it gets really frustrating halfway through the year. Um, I was really having a hard time. Is it me as a driver? Is it me as the crew chief? What is it? And ultimately, I'm not ashamed to admit we actually took the car apart a couple weeks ago and realized it was snapped.
Whoa.
So I had been running with a broken chassis the whole time. Um, and it was just something that I missed. It wasn't very easy to see. Actually, it was hidden. But yeah, the whole time I thought it was me. I thought it was me as a driver and my driving style, or me as a crew chief. And come to find out, we actually had a broken chassis.
Wow, that'll definitely affect things. So, you mentioned that it's broken. So, being able to look back on it now, just exactly how did the break affect you? Is it was it giving you handling problems? Like, where exactly was that break? If you can maybe explain that.
It was it was in the front of the car, kind of hidden behind panels that I just generally don't take off. But what ended up happening was, for whatever reason, I couldn't figure it out. The car would go away after about 15 laps. It would get so wicked tight that I couldn't even handle it. Um, and it's something that I probably should have caught, but anyone could have missed it. It was hidden behind a panel, and I generally I work on the car by myself, so I don't have a crew of people. I don't have a crew of mechanics helping me out during the week. That is, at the track I have some great help, but during the week it's on me. And so just being by myself, I just missed it, and it happens, and I'm not too broken up about it. But the car would get so wickedly tight by the lap 10, lap 15, it became undrivable. And I just couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And I thought it was the setup. I knew the setups were good because I was relying on some great advice from former crate champions to the Burger Barn team. And these guys know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. I'm not ashamed to admit, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am so new to this game, that I'm the first to admit that mechanically I'm not very good. When it comes to setup, I have no idea what's going on. Generally, I just get in the car and try to wheel it the best that I can. And I found a narrow window in the last couple of years what works for me. And I'll say that if I have to get outside of that window, I struggle a little bit.
Yeah. I want to go to the thing about you working on yourself. Like, so I buy fuel off Jamie Turner, and the one night this year I went up there, and it was just like you keep your trailer there, and you literally just
Yeah.
back it out onto their grass, and you work on it there. And the one night I went to pick up fuel, you were there doing it, and that night I didn't have to wrestle the fuel drum into the truck by myself. You helped me, and thanks for the help. And I just wanted to paint that picture of you working for our listeners. Like Allan works on Jamie Turner's grass by himself during the week. That's how he does it. That's how bad you want to do it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it gets really difficult at times, and there are weeks definitely where I'm like, what am I doing? But ultimately, what ended up happening was, I was working out of my dad's house, and his shop, and then he passed away, and it kind of, with losing my dad and losing my best friend, and all of that, I practically lost my shop space as well. And so the first person to step up and help me out right away was Jamie Turner. He just, kind of cold called me, and I had known him a little bit before that because he helped me convert the crate, or I went to DSE to convert the crate engine to get it ready for my first season ever. And I met Jamie through DSE, and he said, I said, I don't know what's going to happen because I have nowhere to go. And he was the first one to open the door. I wouldn't be racing if it wasn't for the Turner family. They keep me going, but generally during the week, it's me by myself at the Turner shop. I push the car out of the trailer by myself onto the grass and wash it, then do a 50-point turn and push it into the shop and put it on stands, and then do the best to do my weekly maintenance, go through the car, check out things. And so it can be difficult at times. And I really question, why do I do this? But I just love it. You get in the car on Friday, and it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah, it's worse than drugs.
Ye-
It is a drug. It's
Yeah,
called adrenaline, and like some
yeah.
nights it's still pumping the next morning. It's nuts.
yeah, definitely. So for fans who maybe don't know all that much about you, Alan, just talk to us about your racing journey and how you've gotten to this point, how you got started, and how you caught the racing bug.
Yeah, so I started really late. Growing up, I had no connection to racing. My dad didn't race. My family wasn't into racing. But the one thing we were, my dad and I we were race car fans. Like we were love racing fans. We loved. We would watch NASCAR every Sunday. We would go. My parents would take me to Merrittville Speedway for the enduros when I was younger, and I always thought that was really badass and really cool and fun to be a part of and watch. Um, and then when I got my driver's license when I was 16, 17, I just started going to Oshweekend. My mom actually introduced me to Oshweekend when I was younger. My mom and my dad. They would take me there every once in a while, and I started going to the track when I got my license every Friday night. That's what I did, just by myself. I would drive from Waterloo, an hour away, and I would go sit in turn two and just watch. At the time, it was Sportsman, um, and the Thunderstocks. And the first time I saw the SOS come to um, Oshweekend, I was hooked. I had known of sprint cars before that. My dad had introduced me to the World of Outlaws, like on the old TNN channel, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, they
baby.
would have the odd race like replay of Knoxville Nationals, and my dad just basically said, "This is the baddest ass car you could ever get into. Like this is it. This thing is nuts. Like they're wild, they're insane, they're just extreme bad to the bone cars." And so the first time I saw the SOS at Oshweekend, I was hooked. I absolutely fell in love with it. So then I played lacrosse growing up my whole life, and hockey, and that's kind of where my passion was. I had a passion for racing, but I was really my practice was in lacrosse, and I went down on a scholarship to the States. I got drafted professionally, so it was a very big part of my life. And then that kind of ended when I was 25, and I was still into racing and loved going to Oshweekend every Friday. I moved away to Montreal, but I would take my now wife, out to the racetrack for dates on Friday nights down in Granby, so an hour outside of Montreal, and watch the modifieds there. And I kept saying to her, one day I'm going to get a car. One day I'm going to build one. And every Friday for that hour drive, we would have this discussion about me wanting to build a car. I wanted to do it with my dad, because he always wanted to race, but he never had that opportunity for whatever reason, because of work, because of his family. He just never had that opportunity. He was a millwright. And so when I moved back from Montreal in 2018, that was it. I met with my dad. And I was like, here we go. I want to get into a sprint car. There's this crate division at Oshweekend. What do you think? And he was all for it. He jumped on board. He was like, let's do this. Let's go find a car. By November of 2018, we found a roller off of a Hall of Fame driver in Tracy Hines down in Ohio, who's a wingless driver. He
No
kind of
way.
it was a cold call. I didn't know him. I didn't even know who he was until I Googled him. And then he gave me a bunch of setups, gave me a bunch of help. I bought the roller off him, um, brought it home, and that's kind of all she wrote. We started in the 2019 season. Um, a lot of people know this part of the story because of Friday Night Thunder, but if they don't, as soon as we bought the car, about a couple months after that, we found out my dad had lung cancer and a really aggressive form of lung cancer, and the prognosis wasn't very good. Um, so almost immediately, my racing career ended. Like when I was 33, I was just jumping into it for the first time. I had never been in a race car. I've never driven anything. No connection to anyone at the racetrack. And here we were taking this leap of faith, and then we get this devastating news. And we were thinking maybe it was going to end it. Um, Ultimately, what ended up happening was my dad said, "Let's go for it." We were going to keep going. He wanted to keep going, and it turned into the greatest distraction we could have ever ask for.
Yeah. At that point, you might as well just keep going. Yeah. What did you have to lose at that point? I definitely feel your pain there. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And my mom came up to you, I think, this year and stuff like that. We really were discussing if we were going to talk about it or not, me and my mom at dinner tonight. But yeah,
yeah.
tough stuff, man. I feel you.
Yeah, so it was this racing journey's been incredible. It's been so much fun, and to have that with my dad, like the coolest part of the whole story of my dad and I racing together was he was with me for 2 seasons. My first season, we hung around the back, tried to learn how to drive the car, how it worked, like just the basics of racing. And I didn't really get racing beside people until halfway through the season. Um, Turn that into the following season, which was the first of the COVID seasons. Um, it was probably one of the best things, all things considered. I know people, struggle with this and family members and with COVID and had a really hard time. But all things considered, it actually turned out to be a good thing for me because all we could do for the first month or two is practice. So that's all I did was practice, practice, practice. And my dad was with me the whole time, and then I got my first win at Merrittville, and it was such an incredible experience because he was there with me, and it was him and I, and it was the greatest sporting moment, one of the greatest moments of my entire life.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's racing, man. Like, there's no. I know I've seen hockey and stuff. You've experienced lacrosse, but you just said that's the best moment in your life and happened in racing. So
Yeah.
you just proved my point. Yep.
It's the magic of racing. One thing you did mention too is your involvement in Friday Night Thunder. So just talk to us about what that experience has been like.
Yeah, so for the last 2 years, the docu series on APTN Friday Night Thunder has been following us and my little team and the journey that we've gone through. It's been incredible. But it's tough too. I mean, for 2 years, the second I get to the track, there's a camera on me to the second I leave the track. So, they catch you at your best and they catch you at your worst. So when you might say something, you come out of the car, you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're swearing your head off. And, most people don't have a camera in their face capturing all those moments of, you might say stuff that you regret, or you just in the heat of the moment or anything like that. And at the same time, we've gotten to know the crew, and we've got to the coolest thing that I think I'm going to be really grateful for is watching my son grow up on camera. Like they have all these highlights of my little guy who was in was born in 2020. He's now 2. So for his first year, he was at the track every night with us. The second year, and then just that's been really cool. I can't wait to show him that and show him the highlights of the show and everything they capture. And it's been really cool to grow close with the crew as well as they learn about sprint car racing, as they learn the ropes of do's and don'ts, and like what's exciting and what makes for a great storyline. um, it's been a lot of fun to do that. The one of the challenges about it too, I would say, is you always have to be on. So what I mean by that is I kind of feel like a performer, and it's it's not a lot different from what I do as a day job. So I'm a professor. I do a lot of media interviews, and I always have to be on. I always have to be at my best. I always try to be at my best, to be intellectually at my sharpest. And one of the things that Friday Night Thunder does is it makes me always have to be on. So it's almost like I have to put a persona on when I get to the track, um, and kind of act out the part of being a race car driver, but at the same time being entertaining, at the same time being a husband, at the same time as being a father. So it can be a little much once in a while, and I get fired up, and I get fired up at the crew, but we've really grown to really appreciate each other, and it's been pretty wild.
We all get fired up at the cruise, bro.
Yeah.
He's got two crews to get fired up at, though. That's the difference. And one of them
I
is
Yeah.
know.
mainly him as the
Tough
crew.
sledding for old Allan.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too. You brought up the fact you're a professor. Does being a race car driver get any kind of street cred with any of your students?
No, so it's kind of like I moonlight as a race car driver. So they don't know that I race. Generally, even my colleagues at work don't know that I'm into racing. It's funny because I had mentioned this on the show. But one of the things that happened very very early on when I got hired at the university was I had to take this kind of safety meeting test, and it was listing all the things that um, might be harmful in the university environment. And one of the most common causes of injury at a university for a professor is slipping on ice and hitting your head. And I just kind of I laughed about it, and I kind of looked around, and I was like, I wonder if they know what I do on weekends. Like,
Yeah. Hope
this
not.
is the least of my worries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, if it gets really icy, you got a helmet. At least you got a good helmet you can bring out.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, no, I moonlight I kind of keep those two lives separate. With Friday Night Thunder, it's changed that a little bit, but I haven't got too many, I haven't gotten too many of my students coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I saw you on Friday Night Thunder," or anything like that. Getting a lot of racing fans, getting a cool following of amazing racing fans that are just interested in our story and what my wife and I try to do with this little race team by ourselves, and with the help of good people like my in-laws and my crew members and Jamie Turner and his family. So yeah, it's been an incredible ride, that's for sure.
All right, I'll hit him. Okay. So we'll hit you with this one to get you out of here. So I'm gonna give you the chance to drive any race car at any racetrack for the rest of your life. This is your one ride to end it all. What's the combination of car and track you're picking?
I have two answers for this one. If I was to stay in the realm of possibility, it would be I would love to drive a 360 or a 410 at Kokomo. Kokomo is my favorite track in the world. If I could recreate one here in Southern Ontario, it'd be Kokomo. Um, I guess that's why I love Merrittville so much, is it's kind of very similar, or a little bit similar. But if it was the ultimate car, ultimate dream, it's definitely I would want to drive a trophy truck in the Baja.
Ooh, good pick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it. I totally just thought of something else that I
I'll
wanted to
go
ask
for it
him
then.
before that question. Because I saw you selling your crate. I saw you selling your crate motor, and you said you're done with the crates. This is the whole reason I
Yeah.
had you on, and then we almost missed it. Talk. Are you going 360 or what?
Yeah, so I guess this is breaking news that not many people know. I haven't been real public about it, but I picked up a 360 engine a couple weeks ago from Alain Bergeron in Quebec, and yeah, so it's we're full in. I don't, I don't know. I keep thinking about it, and um, what am I getting myself into? But I'm not getting any younger. I'm having a blast. I love this sport. I love what we do. So I just want to kind of turn it up a notch and go 360 racing. So I bought a 360 engine. We'll be racing. I have a new car, new 360 coming next for next spring. Really looking forward to it. We're realistic. I think it's important for me to say this is I'm realistic about my chances at doing anything too grand in the 360. I'm just looking to have a blast. But for me as a driver, I want to develop and see how I kind of stack up against other similar competition in, let's say, guys that are independent teams and race the track like yourself, Travis, and others. I just want to know, if I can learn a little bit more and just I've had such a blast and so I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. And so I'll be by myself at the Turner
Yep.
shop, cleaning
That's
an
awesome.
injection every week and
Yep.
getting it
Well,
ready.
we're glad to have you. I was pumped when I saw that and can't wait. And I just want to say about the Friday Night Thunder, every Sunday, 7:30, APTN. That's channel 38 for me. I'm Coach Co. I don't know what it is for everybody else. But and then I think it's on Wednesday at 8 as well if you miss Sunday. So you can catch Allan Downey and everyone else on the show there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Alan. Excited for your 2023 plans. Have a great off season. Enjoy it, and we look forward to seeing you join the ranks of the 360s in 2023.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Allan Downey on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Want to support the Southern Ontario Dirt Show and help us expand our coverage across the province and Western New York? Well, your ad could be playing right here. Got a brand or business that deserves more attention? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com to become a sponsor of the podcast. And now, let's get back to the show. And jumping on the show now with Jonathon and Travis Cunningham on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast, it's Randy Giroux. How's it going, my friend?
Good. You guys?
We are great. It's good to catch up with you. I definitely missed seeing that 24 car around Merrittville Speedway all summer long. So just tell everybody where you've been and what you've been up to.
Well, I've been down in Lima, Ohio, attending school at the University of Northwestern Ohio. Here for an automotive high performance degree, which I've graduated from with my associates. And then I've extended my education and I'm on the business side of UNOH. So I'm doing a business major in business administration, which will set me up for my bachelor's degree. And I'll be graduating from that in about a year and a half.
Wow, that's a lot of fancy schooling as a guy who tried school 3 different times before he finally got it right. That's pretty impressive stuff. So what's the long-term goal with all this schooling, Randy?
Well, hopefully I'll end up somewhere big in racing, whether it's working on some professional race team's car or something like that, maybe NASCAR. I don't know. I've got a couple buddies that graduated and went to NASCAR, and they're loving it. So we'll see. I'm kind of keeping all my options open, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I want to talk about this, the whole reason we had you on, because you are $80,000 richer over the last 2 years in the National Auto Tech competition, I believe. So that's like 2 really big races won, but you did it a different way. Tell us about the competition and what you had to build both years doing it.
Yeah, so I attended the U.S. Auto Tech National Championship 2 years in a row now. Thankfully, I had the opportunity through my school, UNOH, and basically, Ideal, the company that runs this, looks for the best possible technicians either in training, like me as a student, or the professional technicians across the United States, and they select the best ones and take them all on a trip down to compete on a national level for a pretty serious prize pool. And luckily, I've had the opportunity to do this 2 years in a row now. Last year I went down to Nashville, Tennessee and took part in this and took home first place. And this year I went to Tampa Bay, Florida and took home first place. So during the competition, the first level, basically this year, I had to disassemble and reassemble a front drive shaft out of a 4-wheel drive truck. And basically I had a double cardan joint on the one side, single U-joint on the other side, and I had to take it all apart, put it all back together with the new parts, and that was a qualifying round for the top 16. and which I advanced to the top 4. And then the top 4 got a crate motor out of a Corvette, so it was like LS. And basically, we had to do a compression leak down test to all 8 cylinders, diagnose what was wrong based off of those tests, tear the motor down, and rebuild it and ask for the correct parts. And then it's got to be verified and that it's correctly fixed, and that's it. So they allocated 3 hours for us to fix the motor. I had it done in an hour and 36 minutes. I was like 20 minutes ahead of the second place finisher.
What? How many?
20 minutes.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
Tell the
flying
engine how
hour and
Boulder's
36 minutes with both heads off. And yeah. And yeah, I had to replace a head gasket and I had a failed lifter.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty wicked.
That's pretty awesome. That's some badassery in terms of the mechanical side. But what about the driving side? While you were down there, did you have any time to either go and watch some racing or maybe jump behind the wheel of anything while you were down in the States?
Yes, actually, for the past 2 years while I've been down here, I've been racing for the University of Northwestern Ohio. We have like a varsity level racing team. It's the only school, as far as I know, in the world that does this. So we race dirt street stocks and dirt modifieds, UMP modifieds, which is a little different than you guys are used to with the Northeast small blocks and big blocks. So yeah, out here in the Midwest, I've been racing a UMP modified this year, and luckily I was fortunate enough to catch Kenny Wallace on his last final, nationwide UMP modified tour, and he made a stop in Lime, Ohio, and raced at Limeland Motorsports Park, and I was lucky enough to throw a slide job on him in the heat race, and pretty wicked. So Kenny ended up sending me a picture, actually signed. Of me and him side by side on the track, and he had wrote on it, Randy, we look fast, your friend Kenny Wallace. So that was super cool.
Yeah, I wanted to critique you a little bit on that heat race because you did throw the great slider on him, but then if you would have stopped pushing the cushion so high and just tucked her down a little bit, you would have threw the slider on him and held on for the win in the heat.
You're right. You're 100% right. I shouldn't have let it slide back up onto the cushion. I was trying to ride it way too hard, but
yeah, got a little horny with Kenny, but it was still awesome to watch you doing that on there.
Yeah, it was wicked. So yeah, and then actually, for the UMP modified in the points at Limeland, I ended up finishing 6th and won Rookie of the Year. So that's pretty cool. And then so the year before that, I raced stock cars for University of Northwestern Ohio, and I also won Rookie of the Year last year. So back-to-back Rookie of the Year titles. So we'll see what happens next season.
That's awesome.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about because I knew you had those Rookie of the Year titles. So, which did you like best? Was it the dirt, the UMP modifieds, or was the stock cars? Talk to us about which you liked best in terms of driving down there.
Definitely the UMP mod. That thing's wicked. A lot of power, I tell you that. 700 horses. There's no feeling like it, especially when you get some forward drive going and get that left rear hiked up. It's awesome. Nothing like carrying the left front all the way around the track.
The motor rules and those are pretty open. Do you know what kind of roughly heads are on that thing? Like, do you know if it's 18 degree or 23 degree or what?
We got 13-degree heads on this motor.
Yeah, see? Sexy stuff.
So, yeah, we're revving like over 10 grand.
Get out. Yeah, basically a late model motor and a stock clip front modified with hockey puck tires.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you get traction, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's for sure.
So, for anybody who's listening that either has like a kid that's interested in going down and attending a program like the one you're in, what advice would you have for somebody who's maybe a high school student right now, or maybe even an elementary school student that wants to get into a field like what you're in?
Definitely just follow your passion. That's all I did. I've been into racing since I was about 9 years old. Started watching NASCAR with my parents. Bought a go-kart. Started racing at Merrittville Speedway, and then moved into the Mod Light division when I was 16. And then, I don't know. I found UNOH online, and I was like, man, I need to go to this place. Went to see it when I was in grade 11, and then I just signed up, got my student visa, and there's a lot of paperwork behind it, especially if you're a Canadian citizen. But it's worth it, honestly. I've had nothing but a wicked experience down here, and especially being able to attend the U.S. Auto Tech Championship. I've paid for my tuition essentially.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you too, because I mentioned right off the hop, I missed seeing that 24 round. You're a massive Gordon fan, like I am too, right?
Yes, always have been.
So they just had the Randy Dorton engine building contest. If you were to go to the, if you were to go to the, let's put together almost like an audition package right now for Hendrick Motorsports. Do you think winning the Randy Dorton engine competition is maybe in your future one day?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that'd be pretty wicked. I'd love to work for Hendrick Motorsports. That's I think that's a dream, to be honest.
Which one's the Randy Dorton one? The one where they build the engine real fast?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have the timed engine
Yeah.
building
Oh,
contest.
but they're not allowed power tools, right? It's got to be
Yeah,
speed handle, I think.
I think so. I think you're right.
I could go for that. I'm good with the speeder.
So when it comes to what you've been learning down there in terms of mechanical engineering and working on race cars, working on cars in general, is there one aspect of the car that has drawn you in more? Are you interested in being a motor guy? Are you interested in suspension, shocks? What's become like the biggest interest to you while you've been down there learning about cars?
Definitely the setup, to be honest, especially being able to drive the cars and see what happens when you change certain things. 100% setup in the suspension and how the geometry behind it. There's so much geometry and math that goes into it. Pretty much everything in a race car can be put into a mathematic calculation. So it's pretty interesting. Just working with my instructors here at UNOH and trying to figure out how we can make this UMP modified faster. Throughout the season at Limaland, it's been pretty wicked.
One thing I wanted to ask you too is like what started your great 2022 season was a huge win down in East Bay, driving for Dan Curving in the Mod Lights. Like you won East Bay, Josh Sliders never
Yeah.
won there, and you won that in one of his cars that he built. We busted him a little bit when
Yeah.
he was on about that. So tell us about it.
Yeah, that was a really awesome opportunity. So it turned out I had been going down to Volusia Speedway Park for a week with UNOH actually, because we were racing 3 of our modifieds, and we had alumni drive, which was really cool. And I was crewing on one of the mods, and Dan Curving had messaged me and said, "Hey man, we're down here racing already in Florida, and we're going to be staying an extra week and going to East Bay with the Mod Lights to run the Winter Nationals." He's like, "You want to hop behind the wheel of my car?" And I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, of course I do. So I arranged it with my school so I could miss the next week. And then, I stayed in Tampa and went to East Bay. And, I sat behind the wheel of that thing, and I think that was like the smoothest driving race car I've ever wheeled. So thanks to Josh for that. And, Rob Meisner and all the guys behind putting those Savage race cars together. Cause that thing was wicked. So we went down to East Bay, and then, night one, we were battling for the lead. I made a mistake, unfortunately. And and then we ended up breaking a shock. So that was kind of a write-off on night one. But then, night two is where it all happened. I think I started deep in the heat, drove all the way to the front and the outside, and then took the redraw for the feature. We had a inversion actually. So I started 8th in the feature. Same thing, just drove around the whole field on the outside and took off. I was gone. East Bay is a wicked track, and it's got a lot of history too, of course. And then, of course, with the threatening of it closing for the past few years in a row now, has been a big talk. So, I mean, pretty cool to have on my resume that I went down to East Bay and won. So.
Yeah. And then the next night, were you leading and then spun out? I hate to bring it up.
Yeah, night 3 was also a write-off. So, unfortunately, it's kind of bad tire choice between me and Dan Curving, but that's okay. I mean, we're still learning, so it was only my 3rd night in the car, and then I got out to an early lead. I was gone, like, I don't know, I think I was 10, 12 cars ahead of the field, And yeah, I ended up I had no traction left by the time we were in, like, I don't know how many laps we were in, 8 or 10 or so, and yeah, I had nothing left, no rear traction, so around it went, and yeah, so that sucked too, but that's okay. Still got a win down there at the Winter Nationals, so that trophy's actually sitting right over here in the living room.
Yeah. Feels like so long ago. It was not even a year ago yet, but I remember cheering the heck for you for early in the year. I was pumped when you
Yeah,
won.
watching on Flow Racing.
Yep, I was pumped.
Yep. Yeah, no kidding. I appreciate it.
That's wicked. So, talk to us about maybe some of the off-season plans. You've joined the BRP TV iRacing League for the off-season. You're going to be racing against Travis in the virtual world.
Oh boy.
Talk to us about that, and how much confidence do you have in your iRacing skills?
Oh boy, so that's a department where I really do lack. A lot of my buddies at school have been on this trend of, oh my gosh, like, what is Randy not good at? Well, I'll tell you what, it's iRacing. I try my best definitely when I'm on there, but yeah. Hopefully I can just get on there and make some clean laps and learn something along the way. It'll be fun. I've taken part in the BRP iRacing series for the past couple seasons and did good actually when they ran their sprint car season. I ended up winning a series race and did good in points too. But the big block, small block stuff haven't really had too much luck running that. But we'll see. Hopefully, I can work around my class schedule too and actually get some races in.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I can race with you if you're not that. Cause I'm the same as you. Quick in the sprints, but
Yeah.
not the quickest in the mods.
Yeah, no, yeah, the sprint cars, like, I've got them down pretty good on iRacing, but the big block, small block stuff, not really. Even the UMP mods on iRacing, like, no good. I'm usually like just a field filler, to be honest.
I think it's
if I get into like
because you can't get the pedal fully down in the cars. Because in the real life you can a little bit, and then in that game you can't. Like you can little, but like it's not quite. Whereas the sprint car is more
yeah,
wide open and kind of a little bit more realistic, a little bit.
yeah,
But the modified's still
definitely.
realistic too. But I wish it could get a little bit more wide open without
Yep, and
cresting
that's
it.
exactly where I struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like first time I hop in the UMP on iRacing and like I'm at Lima Land, I got the pedal to the floor on the outside and like I'm just falling back, and like it's not good. And then like real life, I'll tell you what, when I was racing Kenny Wallace, that pedal couldn't go any further. That it was buried, and like almost all the way around too. Like just blipping the throttle. That track had a lot of traction in it, and it's definitely different on iRacing now. And I've never driven a small block mod or a big block in real life, which hopefully that's on the plans in the future for one day for sure. But I assume it's kind of the same thing in real life. Like obviously big block, you're not putting the pedal to the floor all the time, especially if track slicks off, not at all. But in iRacing, same thing. I really wish you could put the pedal down a little more in those cars, and that'd probably improve the feeling for sure.
The observation I made in the chat Monday night on media night, like we were at Charlotte and we were all running the big block for practice, and like it was still when it was juicy, like 5% or whatever when we just started, but like he still can't even wide open it right there. And I said, I just watched Matt Williamson's video from doing this weekend, and he was not cresting it very much. Like he was to the wood on the cush, wide open the whole way around.
Yep.
So
Yep. I watched the same thing.
yeah.
And I watched the haters in the comments talking about him feeding the door to Max there, but it's
like
funny.
Max wouldn't do that back, yeah.
Exactly, and it's funny that he also got put back to second and then clean past Max around the outside anyway after that. So
Yeah.
I love rooting for our hometown guys down here too. So
Yep. Randy spent the summer at BRP. He's a BRP alumni as well.
Yes, I am a BRP alumni. I started actually working at Bicknell's on a co-op in high school, and that transferred into working there part-time, and then I was working there full-time for a summer, then went off to school, and then COVID happened, came home, worked for them again full-time for that whole summer, and then I kind of been stuck in the States for a little while now, so haven't been back, but hopefully soon,
Yeah.
actually. I was just actually talking to Randy Williamson yesterday and told him that I really need to
you're
come
done
back.
now.
What's that?
Okay, we got work for you. Yeah, because you're done school now.
Well, I'm not done yet. Soon.
Oh, yeah, right. Year and a half.
Yes. But
coming.
yeah. But yeah, he said he was like, heck yes, I want you back in the shop. And he's
Yeah,
like,
I
we
know.
were lucky to have you here when we did, and you know, he just had some nice comments, which was cool coming from him. But yeah, definitely got to come back, put some hours in for BRP too when I can.
Especially in build season right now, we could use you.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned just a little bit a minute ago, you were talking about the idea of having some Canadian pride down there and cheering for the hometown guys. Do some of your classmates, you know, the friends you've made down there, do they kind of realize the racing community that you came from in Southern Ontario and just how competitive and what we have, basically where you're coming from compared to, you know, the UMPs and whatever else is going on?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a big thing is like trying to project that to them, being like, hey, like, do you know who Bicknell Racing Products is? And they're like, yeah, well, yeah, that's the big block, small block stuff, right? And whatever. And oh, that's what Stuart Friesen runs, is what I get every time, because everybody knows who Stuart is, of course. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, Stuart was born a half an hour away from me. And they're like, what? And like, yeah, he's from
Yeah.
Niagara on the Lake, Ontario. And they're like, what? And they're like, that's where you're from? And I'm like, well, yeah, pretty much. Niagara Falls, you know, Fort Erie, that's all the same area. It's the Niagara region. And they're like, holy cow. And then they're like, oh, well, you know, that's where BRP is too. And, you know, even racing with people on iRacing, and a bunch of my classmates, you know, a lot of guys that go to the school here have go on iRacing. And I'm like, hey, you ever hop in a small block or a big block on iRacing and look at the dashboard? And it says Bicknell Racing Products in the right corner, and they're like, "Holy cow! I never noticed that." And they're like, "Oh, so they scanned a BRP car?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, they scanned Stewart's car." And they're like, "Oh, wow, that's, you know, it's cool." And yeah, you know, they don't realize how big the Niagara region really is, and the competition that I come from too. I mean, Armad Lights, I think, in the Niagara region are definitely some of the strongest around. I mean, when I went to Quebec last year and raced at not in Quebec, but just about in Cornwall there, and raced. I mean, I was the highest finishing traveling car, and I mean, Jeffrey May was there, and a bunch of the guys from our hometown, and you know, but we definitely have a really competitive field at home, that's for sure.
Yep, in all classes. I say that all the time.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at McPherson.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Look what he just did. Like down what was that, Orange County?
Oswego.
Or Oswego. Yeah.
Super
And
Dirt Week.
yeah, like that was wicked. So, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show the definitely, yeah, all classes at our home tracks are, you know, right up there in the competition.
Yep.
Well, we'll get you out of here on this one. Unless I should ask for it. Before I ask this one, Travis, do you have
No,
anything
I'm
else before
good on this
Randy,
one.
before I get to it? All right, let's get to the Corey LaJoy Penny Stacker Memorial question here, because I stole it from his podcast. But what if I'm going to give you a combination of one car, one track to race for the rest of your life? What's the combination you pick?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't have enough experience, I would say, yet to really like judge and make a choice of where I'm going to race at for the rest of my life. But I feel like, I don't know. I mean, am I restricted to dirt racing?
No.
No, you can pick any car, any track. You could pick Formula One, Indy car. We just had Allan Downey pick a Baja truck. Like, whatever you want.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, you know, the reason I ask about the dirt or not is I just had an opportunity to go down to the Winchester 400, and I actually crewed on a pavement CRA car, a Jegs car, that one of my friends drives, and you know, I got to see the Superlatives race, obviously, during the Winchester 400, and got to see Nasty Nazi take the win, and it was pretty cool because he was partying late the night before at our camper, so which was neat. But you know, I don't know, the Winchester 400 is pretty insane. So I don't know about the rest of my life, but I definitely want to try a super late at Winchester. I don't know about the rest of my life, though. I mean, I wish I could race an F1 car, but that's a little out of reach.
Yeah, for sure. Fair enough. Well, we appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations on all your success down there. Congratulations on all the hard work paying off, because it's obvious that to get to where you're at and to be winning the awards that you're winning down there, and running as well as you are also in a race car, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of brains. And thanks for representing Southern Ontario so well south of the border, Randy, and thanks for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be back to our home track soon next year. I'm going to bring the mod light back out and, take to the track again.
All right, awesome. Let's catch up on the front stretch after a win, all right?
Let's. I agree.
Awesome. Take care, Randy.
All right, take care, guys. Thanks for having me.
See you, buddy.
Randy Giroux on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe for future episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.